All right, I will call to order the February 6th meeting of the Polk City Parks Commission. Let's begin with a roll call, please.
Otis?
Here.
Converse? Here. Delaney? Holland? Savage?
Here.
Jablonski?
Here.
And Maple.
Here. All right. The third item on our agenda this evening is the introduction of our newest commission member, Darren Maple. Anything you want to say? Anything you want to tell us about yourself?
Not a whole lot. Lived in Polk City for about a year and a half now and have kids that are 8 and 5 years old and excited to do what I can here.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the commission.
Okay, item number 4, approval of the December 5th meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Item number 5, audience items. Do we have anything from the audience tonight?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Very well. Moving on. Item number 6, summarize quarter 4 2022 program cost recovery report.
Yeah, so in front of you is how our programs did for October, November, December 2022. Overall, pleased. It's a small quarter when you don't have your own indoor facility. And so we're thankful for the gyms that do sneak us in. Much appreciated. In terms of youth, we came in over the projection, our goal of 70 to 100%. Very happy with that kind of cost recovery. No adult programs took place, and I'm happy to say, even though it seems small, we are starting to gain some traction with our senior programs. And so, even though that comes back at a 32 in the red, that does fit within the 10 to 40% cost recovery for those senior populations, mostly with the thought that those individuals may be on a limited budget, a strict limited income kind of thing. Fixed income, that's the word. Thank you, Nick. Happy to always offer things for that demographic. And we've already had one in quarter 1 this year already with more people. So it's a slow burn, but it's burning. So happy with that. Yeah, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about.
I'm just curious, the Perfect Games trip, what's that?
Sure. That was a winter break day trip for kids 7 through 9, where we went up to Perfect Games in Ames, bowled, laser tag, arcade. So just get kids out of town, out of the house over break, and so with that one, I'm also really trying to build spring break and winter break trips. So we were one shy of the number estimated to break even. So again, I was happy to fall on that grenade to build the awareness and increase the following of those in the future.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Jason. I know my kids love the Perfect Games trips, so.
Good. I'm glad they had fun.
Well. Moving on, item number 7, update to the regional park project.
So in front of everyone tonight, you have a little diagram courtesy of McClure Engineering. So if you would remember back to October, I believe, Chelsea Huseman, our city manager, came and gave an update as to where we are on that project. And the name of the game is mass grading. We're working with NAP. We are still waiting for an estimate. But I think both parties would we'd see cost savings on both sides if we decided to grade. Is that Big Creek? No, Four Seasons?
Big Creek Commons.
Big Creek Commons, I'm sorry. They're Big Creek Commons subdivision and our regional park. Chelsea also had mentioned at that time the city was starting to do a elevated water storage or water tower feasibility study. And the response from that came back that inside the park actually has some favorable spots that McClure is looking into further. So I wanted to show you guys here tonight where their optimal spot is, and you can see that is the one that is a little bit more centered in the park, and their plan B is on the western side of our property. So right now they're doing further studies to see. I know they chose that site based on elevation is the big one, but right now they're looking into more granular details like soil quality and things like that. And sorry, I'm going to step in front of here and kind of show you this big diagram over here. Reason I wanted to show you guys this, and on this, here is option A. And as you can see, it does not change the program of the park. So it is in what I would call the soccer quadrant, but it is not taking away any space that was programmed as a field. So Chelsea, please correct me if I'm wrong or right, but is the blueprint or the footprint, was it 100 by 100 that they want to keep folks away from the structure?
Yeah.
So it's a lot smaller than one might imagine for an elevated storage tank. But again, here's preference A. Preference B would be over here. So if we did do B, we could always have the option to slide things to the east a little bit to give a little bit more separation. But just wanted to give you guys an update that yes, this site is a finalist for putting in a water tower, but it would not change the program of what we would put at the regional park.
What was previously there?
Nothing, that wasn't a storage building site?
Just green space.
Just green space.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, I think one of the advantages of this too is obviously portions of this water tower project that would also benefit the regional park. We would be diversifying how we can pay for the project as a whole. We would benefit from things that have to happen for the water tower that would also help out the regional park. So if you guys have any questions as I walk back around, happy to.
Is the school shown on this, on here?
School is the big white void is the school property. None of the buildings are that far east on their property at the moment. So yeah, that shows the future Northeast 7th Street as that north-south connector. And then you can see some of those lots proposed very early on from like the NAP development that would be south of the school.
What's the timeline on that? I know that there was a little bit of discussion in the council meeting on last Monday, about like decommissioning the old water tower and building this new water tower. I don't remember if there was
I may default
timing discussed.
one of you two on those details.
Construction for the water tower will begin this spring, summer, and it would take almost 2 full years. It's a big project. Decommissioning of the water tower, we don't have a timeline for that because we might need that water supply, so we're not going to put a timeline on taking that offline. But yeah, that is the thought and plan.
Just because I don't have personal experiences with erecting water towers, can you tell me what that process is like? I don't know what happens in that 2-year period.
Yeah. So right now they're doing some soil boring to test the soils to determine a location. Once we narrow it down to a location, they'll build the base part. That'll take about a year, and then they'll build tank parts the second year. That's the best answer I can give you.
What's the base part though? I guess that's what I'm like. Do they have to grade all of that to do that?
No.
Okay. I was trying to figure out like
No.
what do they have to do? Okay, so is the grading that you were talking about with Nat and the water tower separate?
All grading would get done at the same time. the finite grading that would have to happen for the tower would happen in conjunction with everything else. So the tower portion, park portion, that portion, all at once.
In a world full of happy trees.
Yes.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions?
Is the preferred location just due to elevation? It's a little bit higher than the other one, or why? What was the priority there?
I think the preferred location is further in the park to have more control when, like, we need to paint it or when maintenance needs to happen. Obviously, you want to control as big of a parameter around the infrastructure as possible.
And I assume that the water tower project would absorb some of the costs that were probably originally planned for the regional park, like a little bit of water utilities, a little bit of grading work. That would probably come first, so it might alleviate a little bit of cost on the park project side.
And the water tower has to be completely done for the park amenities to get started, like actual fields, or
I don't have a concrete answer for you there on Kelly, but I would say I probably don't believe so. There may be a construction radius around there, but as long as we're outside of that, we could start to program the park according to the master plan. Some of the things that are more immediate to the structure, you could still prep them, obviously grade, seed, but in terms of like, kids actually kicking a soccer ball,
right.
we might have a bubble till.
Yeah, but that grass would take quite a while.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
probably in the end, it all works out, but
There's no plans to start on the park, right? We're just talking about the grading, the joint grading between the new development and water tower and stuff like that. And we'll take advantage of all that work with prep, right? Prep park, but no park work isn't gonna happen anytime soon, right?
well, we have to grade and then.
No, yeah, I
So that's
understand,
obviously
yeah.
part one, but then yes, then we seed, so we have to let the site establish before we can really build the program.
I guess
So,
we're just trying to
yes.
set expectations. We're
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what
Exactly.
we're a couple years off before
Yes, yep.
you start seeing something of substance, right? I know
Mhm.
the last I knew when we were talking about, there's still funding issues and stuff like that, right? So it's gonna be several years off. Okay. Didn't mean to be a downer, but
Waiting for that information for mass grading still.
Yeah.
We're getting close, but yeah, I mean, until we have that information, we're just waiting to see what our next steps are.
There was an item in your work session minutes from 12, I believe, last month, talking about a capital campaign and feasibility study for the park.
Mhm.
Is there anything to share those items?
We are talking about hiring someone to assist us with fundraiser or capital campaign for next fiscal year. So yeah, we haven't found anyone yet, but it's something that we're looking into.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Anything else? Okay, so moving on then. Item number 8, discuss opportunity for city council joint work session.
Members of the commission have brought this idea forth, and I did a little bit of looking around to possibly what some of our neighbors in the metro do, and I saw some really good opportunities where, like a lunch and learn type thing, where the commission, council can sit down, roles can be reviewed, just collaboration, synergy, making sure both are helping the other entity, almost like just a refresher and to move forward. Is that something that the commission would be interested in doing?
So I can chime in. I'm the one that put this agenda item on our agenda. After conversations just casually with citizens, for more formal conversation with Jason, I've also talked to a couple council members. I just feel like now that we have the benefit of having Jason on staff and he's taking care of a lot of the more minute things that we used to do on the park commission of, approving applications to use the square or to rent Miller Park Shelter. It makes more sense from a customer service perspective to have him immediately approve those things, right? Otherwise, people are waiting a whole month for us to get back to them. That's silly, right? And then on top of that, it says in the description of the Parks Commission that we are to advise and assist the council on matters relating to parks. And the comment that I made was, I'm just not sure what that means. What does it mean to advise and assist? Does that mean that we aid in finding someone to raise that capital? Does it mean that we know what's going on before it becomes public knowledge so that we can aid and assist? I don't know what those things mean, but I feel like as we've grown as a community and as we've grown as a community in population, but also actually in expanse of the staff that we have on our city hall, I'm not sure it's clear what we're supposed to be doing anymore. I feel like a lot of what we're doing is rubber stamping. I don't know if anybody else feels that way, so I'm only speaking from my perspective. But I also feel like I want to do more than that. I want to be an advocate for how we raise funds. I want to help in ways that we can. I know Chelsea has had more than a full plate over the last couple of years. And so how do we come in so that we can be an asset to the council and to Chelsea and to Jason? And I don't know the answer to that. And maybe I'm the only one that feels like I'm floundering. But that's kind of how I arrived to this, because if our job is to bring up issues and to advocate and to make steps to move things forward, then it's important that we know what's going on. If our job is to listen to community members and to bring things forth to council, we still need to know what's going on. And I don't feel like we've had a lot of kind of that background knowledge of what's been going on. But if our job is more of, taking what the council is doing and just approving it, that's fine too. I mean, that's a part of our city structure and our governmental structure. And again, I really want to reiterate, I don't think anybody has done anything on purpose. I'm just not 100% sure what that advise and assist description of the Parks Commission means as we've had these many pieces of growth and transition over the last roughly 5 years. So that is where it came up. I think everybody's doing a great job, the commission, the council. I'm not sure that that's clear any longer what that means. And so I was hoping that maybe a joint work session would clear the air about what people want us to do as a Parks Commission. I don't want the tail wagging the dog for, a proverbial instance. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I also don't want to sit idly by if that's not what we're supposed to do.
So I guess my question is, have we asked? I mean, have you asked Jason or Chelsea or anyone on the I mean, I agree with you. I totally agree. Support. But have we asked what the expectation is from anyone?
Asking is what brought this joint session.
Okay. So
yeah.
You've asked and the answer was?
I don't know that it's that. I don't know. I'm not sure that anyone was like, man, we don't know what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
It's just that we've had so much change in a very short period of time. And I'm not sure that there's ever been a chance to revisit and to re-outline priorities and what.
So put a little bit more definition and clarification on what the roles and expectations are of the commission.
Yeah, and what the council wants from us. If the council wants us to be advocates and they want us to go after funding, or they want us to come up with new ideas, or if we can work with Friends of the Park more intimately to tackle some projects that are on the council's CSIP plan, my fear is that I don't want to start doing some of those things and then have someone be like, whoa, that's outside your scope. I don't know what that looks like. And I'm not sure that there is an answer. Maybe there is, and I just don't know it. That's why I said I don't think anybody's like left anyone in the dark on purpose. I think it's just a matter of there's new people on staff, right? And maybe there is a simple answer that I just don't know about, but asking what that looks like is exactly what brought that to this point.
Well, I appreciate what you've said, and I would like to see a joint session. Yes, we do want your input. I don't expect you to go out and knock on doors and solicit money. I'm not. But I do want to hear your thoughts, and if you guys have ideas about how to improve, especially on our youth programs, because that's near and dear to me, either through Jason, you tell him, or through me as the liaison this year, to get it back to the council and see that we can act on it. You are a recommending body, and in my history on the council, we usually take your recommendations very rarely, and then it's up to us to figure out, can we fund it? Can we not fund it? Is there funding available? Chelsea's very good about getting applications for grants and has done very well so far. And adding Jason was different to all of us.
Yeah, 100%.
It was a rocky road the first year, wasn't it, Jason?
COVID didn't help either,
Yeah,
but
well,
yeah, it was
exactly.
it was a very
Exactly.
weird first year. Absolutely,
And,
yeah.
you know, for years, the programs were Little League and soccer is what we had. The parents ran it, parents did it. Volunteer cleanup days. Jason kind of educated me when he got here that most cities don't do that. Most cities, the entities don't do that stuff. The city takes care of it. Well, we've always done the mowing, other than that. And we've done some work on the ground out there and had some expensive gear, refurbished fields and stuff. But yeah, I think it's great and that we all get on the same page, and I think a joint session. And when he said a lunch session, he had me right there.
And I guess just to add on what you were saying, Aaron, I think my biggest thing is when you say we do want you to recommend to us, I'm not sure exactly what that means. So like, do we come to you and say, well, we recommend that the light or that the water tower goes XYZ, or is it that we come up with plans for a new pocket park and present it? I'm not 100% sure what that means.
Well,
and so I would love to just have a chance for all of us to talk and bring our energies together in a productive way.
Exactly. And since you brought it up, I was not in favor of the water tower going to the park. I didn't want to go to that space for the water tower, but it was explained to me there's several advantages. One, we own the ground, and negotiations to get private ground went nowhere, correct? Or we didn't go very far when we tried to negotiate with neighbors to get some ground. And Chelsea explained if you already own the ground, loans are easier to obtain than government loans. Is that correct? Tell me if I'm speaking out of turn.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we anticipate with the new annexations, this is the way the city's gonna go, so the water tower will be there. There's just a lot of pluses. Yeah, I didn't wanna give up on trees, but there was just too many pluses to ignore.
I don't think it hurts to have a work session, because if nothing else, it can help kind of define goals and expectations going forward and make sure we're on the same page and focusing on what we're work on.
Just get to know them.
Yeah. You said other communities do this too?
Yeah, I kind of tapped into my Urbandale roots, and they started this. Well, Larry can probably speak. He was on the Urbandale Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
Commission.
we would meet periodically with the council. It was very informal, and using the way Urbandale did it was an opportunity for the parks people, Parks Commission, to tell the council what's going on or what we're thinking about, more than asking the council. Council, it was more of a listening part for the council. They were hearing what the parks, you know, what the future, what they had, you know, what's down the road with parks and stuff.
See, and I think that's the piece that we're missing. I'm not sure that we're the body that's planning what's going to happen down the road in the future with parks. We're waiting for council to tell us when to take steps, and then, or Jason, or whomever may be that person, and then we're rubber stamping it, which is delightful. I mean, that's really easy job. But at the same point in time, we have some really powerful voices up here that are passionate about parks, and I don't know that we're necessarily taking advantage of exactly what you're saying.
Well, I would rather see it the other way around, where you guys are coming up with an idea, and then we figure out, can we finance, bring it to the city, this is what we'd like to do, and as a council then acts on it with Chelsea's help and Jason's help. Can we finance that? Can we get it done? Is this practical? But, you know, even simple stuff like playground. I don't want to decide. I haven't played on playground equipment for 3 or 4 years, but I took care of a lot of it. We want to hear from you guys, and then
We didn't try that. Is there like senior citizen playground equipment? I'm actually being totally serious. We have one in Sioux Falls and it's tons of fun.
if there is, I'm not ready for it. Although I am a senior citizen for sure, but
Simmer Park's right down the road from
yeah.
you. We could put it in there.
That's a good example. We decided to got that ground at what I thought was a reasonable price. Rather than trying to get more houses in there, we decided to make it to a park, and then all of a sudden, boom, it was gonna be a dog park. And I have no idea where that came from. I know it didn't come from the council, I know it didn't come from the park commission, because I right away called a couple members, and no, we didn't bring that up. And I don't know, I think somebody decided that a dog park, all you do is say, there it is, but all the dog parks I'm aware of are fenced in. That would take a lot of fencing to fence up, yeah.
Anyways, I know this is just a discussion item and we don't need to vote on it, but I personally would like to recommend that Jason works with Chelsea and the council for us to have a joint work session so that we can be more progressive and goal-oriented in our work as a commission. And we can be forward-thinking and proactive. I know there's been a lot of focus on the regional park, but we have other needs in our parks too that we really haven't had a lot of conversation about. And we had a delightful intern that gave us some great ideas that we've never acted on. We've got youth programs that are not Little League and soccer that are starting to blossom and are too big for the britches of some of the folks that are running them now. What does that look like? The Booster Club has dropped Comet Basketball Club. You know, I mean, like, there's lots of things happening in our community that I think are some really great opportunities for us to jump in.
So on some of those programming types of things, it might not necessarily be the best idea to have a work session with council, but maybe just work sessions with Jason, Parks Department as a whole.
My
Gotcha.
suggestion
Yeah.
was starting with the council though, was just to make sure, I mean, they
Yeah,
are
sure.
our overseeing body and the body we're recommending to. So the rationale for starting with the council work session was to really make sure everyone was on the same page before we started a commission session.
That tracks.
I like that. And I know our current mayor is very concerned about parks and space. I'm sure will be told. Not that the other ones weren't. He's vocal.
No, yeah, I'll happily work with Chelsea and we'll get something on the schedule for you.
Okay. So I guess there's no real action we need to take on that, or everyone seems willing to sign on to actually have a work session together in addition to our regular meeting. Okay. Wonderful. That sounds wonderful. Great. So we can move on. Item number 9, discussion of the sports complex fee comparison.
Yeah, just to refresh a little bit of the background, this was something that was brought to the commission last October. And in the process of comparing our neighbors in the metro and talking with Little League and North Polk United Soccer, you know, I think there was an opportunity to have some sort of fee structure out there. You know, it would only help better the complex as we see it out there. So, yeah. So again, in really, so this was our last meeting in December. this was tabled, and it was requested of me that I talk more in depth with those user groups. I had a good conversation with a Little League representative. He's on the dais right now if you want to ask him any questions. I think that went well. I think both sides are happy with what was discussed. And feel free, Darren, you can wear your Little League hat here. And then I did recently have a conversation with, I don't know if it's official yet, but like the newest man in charge of United. We had a good conversation. It was my understanding he would take it back to their board for some critique. I have heard nothing good, bad, or indifferent after that meeting. So yeah, I guess, Darren, do you have anything to?
My only question, looking at the December notes were, the cost per year, or sorry, that the funds would go back to the general city's fund. Is that in line with what it would do to like rent one of the shelter houses or anything like that? That goes towards this general city fund versus the Parks and Rec fund? If I can wear my Little League hat for a minute, I would like to see those funds be dedicated back towards the upkeep and maintenance of the sports complex.
Yes.
I don't know if that's possible.
I think just all of these fees, in terms of fee, revenue in, that's how my department is set up as a structure of the general fund. Please help me along the way. But no, where that would come into effect is the next year's budgeting. I have estimated revenue that can obviously help my budget out there. And I should say also, I didn't have a good way to present this, but in our lease with the Army Corps of Engineers, it is explicitly said that any fees collected go back into the administration, maintenance, operation, and development of the premises. And I have to, report revenue and expense to the Corps on a yearly basis. So,
as user groups where residents can enroll their children in both of those organizations, I think that's a perfect use of that money. Yes, we're using that city space, but it's also staying to improve it for future use.
But as far as the structure goes, it doesn't go to a dedicated
Right.
parks budget.
Yeah, now I
It goes
understand
to
that a little bit better now.
General fund.
Will there be signage, or how are you gonna, short of being out there every night when people show up, how are we gonna know that they're legal, that they paid their fee or they haven't?
sure. Well, and this is a good way of thinking about it. Sorry, I'm trying to find my notes. So yes, this fee is for. It is for the guarantee. It is the scheduling and making sure that it is prepped, with whatever that looks like. So at the core, the sports complex is a park, and so I see this verbiage a lot on other towns, and I would echo this, is that if a field is not reserved, it would be available for use on a first come, first serve. So there is not policing. But knowing what field, the desire for field space is right now, I don't see this being a problem.
So what would happen is they would contact you, pay the fee, show up, and if someone's there, they would be able to say, I've paid for it. And
Correct. As I do now, I issue a permit with all of their time, place, everything, and so yeah, that would obviously.
We've had a couple instances, I can just chime in for Jason. Our daughter plays softball and my husband coaches our team. So we've had a couple instances where we show up and there's people on the field and Brett just says, we have this field reserved. I think twice we've had someone say, no, we have the field reserved. And once they pulled up their email, they're like, oh yeah, just kidding. We're on field 2, and they move. Or we say, well, we don't care if we're on field 4 or field 2 and we take it over. But, the email basically is a chance for everyone to be on the same page. The only other thing that I've seen other folks do is on really busy time periods or when fields are blocked for certain activities like Little League or Rush or whatever, sometimes there is like a permanent sign that says these fields are reserved for Polk City United on every Saturday, you know, like there's an announcement. Or there's like one of those clear things where you can put in a
Yeah.
piece of paper that has the outline. I don't know if we're to that point or not. I don't know what your calendar looks like, but we've never had a problem just saying to someone, hey, we've got this field reserved.
Yeah, that was my question. I didn't know how other communities do it, but to your point, you know, like when you reserve a shelter at a state park or something like that, they'll put cards out there that says so-and-so has this book. So what I'm hearing you saying, we're probably not at that point yet, but
I don't know if we are.
do you know, do other communities do anything like that with fields, just to put, so people just don't step on each other, cause
Sure.
issues?
Truthfully, man, it is 6 of one, half a dozen
Is
of
it?
the other.
Okay.
I've worked places that do have a little glass enclosure on each backstop, and each week they'll put in that week's rentals.
Schedule.
Yep. And then, you know, some places, just that receipt is proof that you have acquired this space at this time. So,
Is one easier than the other?
not really. I mean, one's just a little bit extra work of going out there and changing it, and but you know, I think probably my preference would be to date. You know, I've just done the permitting, and you know,
And it's kind
very
of,
minimal
it's
issues.
self-police.
Yeah.
It is.
Essentially, right? Like you
Yes.
talked
Yeah.
about, they'll pay.
Yeah, I've only been called into action once to go out there and settle a dispute, and it really wasn't a dispute. Somebody had their information wrong, but I digress. I think that would be my recommendation, to continue with what's been working, and if further action is necessary, we could look into displays being put out there.
Yeah, because of our neighbors to the east, when I was 7, 8 years ago, when I was still coaching Little League softball, we'd go out there to practice near the team. Our neighbors out there, and sometimes they didn't want to leave.
Is this a voting item?
Yes, this will be, but I have another sheet up there for y'all to look at. And this would be for item A, 9A. So I guess, Nick, if you want to move us on to 9A, I can
Okay.
talk a little bit more about that one specifically.
9A, consider recommendation of private use sports complex fees.
So again, something that came out of our December meeting was you guys wanted to take separate action items on private versus user. So in front of you guys is what I would recommend for ball fields and different sized soccer fields. Now, these are prices for private use. So if a ball team wants to come in, travel team, and secure a ball field for 60, 90 minutes, this is what the pricing would be. And it will be broken into resident versus non-resident, as all of our other rental things are here in town. And what I'm showing in front of you, I was trying to be consistent with any number for a resident. It would be a 50% markup for a non-resident. And so you can see here, split these into ball fields. Soccer was a little bit more difficult just because different sizes, you know, so I think I came to a decent little solution. Those of you that are familiar with the soccer field setup out there, the east field is smaller than the west, and oftentimes both are split into two. So I see too small on the east as rentable options, or the entire east. I'm going to put in the full east as the equivalent of a half west, because the full west is the biggest that we have out there. So we would have 3 categories of fields that you could rent. Soccer is really not. Baseball is where we see this issue right now, is, you know, travel teams. Not to say that soccer won't become an issue down the road, but I think this is more proactive, that we have something in place. Even if somebody wanted to come in and host a little tournament, you know, these are the rates that they would be expected to incur to block that out. I'm happy to take any feedback on these pricings.
Can teams only rent it for 60 minutes at a time, or can they rent it for 2 hours? Is there, oh, they can't, it just, this is the
Yeah.
pricing per hour?
Yes, yeah. True, you know, in a baseball, softball world, I know 90 minutes is the preferred amount of rental. I wanted to break all of this down just into a clean 60-minute, but with my reservation system, I can easily have 60, 90-minute options. So, yeah, so this would just be extrapolated out, take that hour times 1.5 to figure out the 90-minute cost.
So the question that comes from my soccer point of view, like with baseball, you know what equipment is out there. You've got the overall field, and I don't know if you guys have your bases out there as a club that just like.
I don't know who owns the bases, but
Those are my bases.
so I know
Okay.
with the work that's gonna be happening, our city and league bases,
Okay.
so.
But then swinging that back to soccer, who owns the goals and who owns the nets and who has those up and maintains those? That
Sure.
my understanding right now is that those all belong to the club.
Mhm.
And I assume anybody who would be interested in renting a field would be miffed to find out that there's no goals or nets out there to practice with.
So that was something that I had a conversation with the United representative. The initial thought was goals weren't going to be a big deal. You know, if United would like to keep having them out just for ease, you know, maybe that's rolled in, or if United would like to start moving theirs and I would be responsible for having city goals, you know, so I think it would be a little bit of a learning experience. Hopefully those that are renting would not, they would know how to properly treat a goal and what not to do with a goal, but everybody's different. But no, so that was a conversation I had with United, and yeah, if further feedback is needed, then absolutely we can still.
Maybe
Figure
that
that out.
is just lifted too. Instead of calling it the east and west soccer fields, maybe it's just the east and west green space.
Sure.
And then you can add in something like, you know, the use of soccer equipment and goals would be an additional fee. You know, I mean, I think that if you would take out the word soccer and just call it green space, and then maybe like equivalent to a 10U soccer field, you know, I mean, you might be able to finagle it just by changing verbiage too.
And I
What's the
appreciate.
concern? Goals. Damage.
My concern
Damage.
is not so much with the physical goal structures themselves, but the nets.
So do
The
you have
nets,
that
the nets
concern
are
now?
a wear
that it's-
item, and
Do you have that concern now that it's public use as is?
so far I don't think it's been an issue, but I'm not really one to speak to it.
I would say now if there's a documented list of who's using that space and there is damage suspected, then you know exactly who to go talk to. There.
That makes sense.
And Ashley, I think that's a good point too, to maybe label it something different, because, you know, last summer we did have a local football club utilize it. And, you know, I could see as lacrosse gets more popular, it's just a matter of time before somebody asks if they can host a lacrosse camp in Polk City. So, yeah, I think maybe changing the verbiage would be
And,
advantageous.
you know, going back to your comment about where this money goes, before we had some new members, that was one conversation that we did have about this fee structure, I think in October, November? When was it initially proposed?
October is when it was brought to the commission, so probably November.
Yeah. One thing we talked about was, even though like all fees go into a general fund, you still get like this, right? So we still know what's coming in and what's going out. And you had some conversations around, you know, that gives us some leverage to say, hey, look, we've got $6,000 this year in soccer field rentals. Maybe it's advantageous for the city to buy goals. Maybe it's advantageous for the city to buy lacrosse balls. You know, whatever the case may be, it gives us that data that you're talking about. So,
Improve the space even more for more users.
yeah, I think the fees are very reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't issue with how they're set out. It's just small questions of how the actual
I think they're
rentals
good
are structured
questions.
and the terms of that.
Are there some store-bought goals out there now? You know? Are they, the goals that was, when I was involved in soccer, way back, those were a couple iron workers here in town.
I
Got the
don't,
pipe and welded them all up.
I don't think any of those are, homebrew versions anymore.
I bet they are.
The youngest
I don't know how
kids,
you could have destroyed those other ones.
that's only a question of where they got hauled off to then. Just over the hill into the Army Corps where all the other scrap is dumped. Certainly with the older kids, the larger goals are commercial products. Younger ones still look like commercial products, but I don't know, maybe somebody did weld those together.
No, these are full-blown union steel workers with a whole lot of experience.
I don't think those are still in use. Okay, so
I move that we approve the new fee structure for rentals in the sports complex.
motion to recommend to council approval of the fee structure. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I
Opposed? All right, we recommend the fee structure to the council. So moving on to 9B, consider recommendation of user group sports complex fees.
Yes, so this is a more specific angle for our existing user groups. So, typically in a sports complex world, it's one of two things. It's black or white. Either the club pays a good amount of money and everything is ready for them when they show up, a la Ankeny. Or the user groups cover all costs, and the city lets you use their space for free. The youth groups incur mowing, fertilization, pretty much everything, a la Urbandale is how they handle their Little League. Not saying that Polk City is right, wrong, or indifferent. It's a very unique scenario that Polk City has operated under for a very long time, where it's kind of it's a gray area with the city incurring some costs and the user groups incurring some costs. As part of this review, we kind of looked at, the user groups. We thought that perhaps a nominal fee would help put money back in to the complex out there. It is entirely up to those groups if they continue to donate their time and money. That should never be the expectation. So, having something small on a per head basis makes sense for the city to be more proactive in a case where donations slide. More than anything, this gives us the opportunity to be proactive out there instead of reactive. Instead of things breaking, then yes, hopefully we're ahead of it now. After my, this one was difficult to pin down. I did talk to a few others, actually just not in Iowa, but this was a nationwide search. Thank God for the National Parks and Rec Association. But no, with everything involved with monetary donations, volunteer donations, what these clubs mean to Polk City, I'm recommending a $5 per head fee per season that would be collected during registration of Little League or United. Money would be used the same way per the Corps' language, that it gets pumped back in to the premises.
Okay, I think that sounds reasonable personally. User groups feel what about this?
Again,
User groups
there's
feel
one
what about this?
right there.
So the Little League board had a little bit of convincing. I don't know if everyone is aware, but the Little League and the city are making field improvements this spring. Totals about $60,000. There was some concerns like, well, we're paying this money now. Why are we also going on the hook? And to my earlier comment, this per head nominal fee is going to ensure that we have proper maintenance and proactive maintenance versus the reactive maintenance that Jason mentioned earlier. $5 is not going to make or break a Little League or hopefully a North Polk United soccer club. I think both of those organizations are very healthy and have good registration, and I think this maybe helps keep the local youth in the local area when it comes to playing. We don't have a lot of external travel because we have nice facilities for this. So it did take some convincing due to our Little League's large outpouring of cash, but I think we're now in agreement that it's nominal and needed.
And, and again, I did not hear good, bad, or indifferent from United on this, so it was my assumption that if they were not happy, I would hear. So
Okay.
we're good. Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Can I ask, is that $5 in addition to what you guys are already charging? Because
We will not pass that on to the parents as additional fee for registration. That's
You're
part
not gonna?
part of the registration fee.
Or,
We did raise our registration fees, but
yeah,
they hadn't been raised in several years prior, so we brought them up to we're still right in line with similar communities like Bondurant, is who we modeled our registration after.
for a long time, we were one of the cheapest cities around just because the city, did participate and help us on. And what a lot of people don't know is you can't turn a kid away. They don't know play. Somebody has to pay.
That's correct.
Money has to go to international and national.
Okay, any other thoughts, questions? All right, do I have a motion to recommend to council the fee structure for user groups?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we recommend that fee structure to council. Moving on to item number 10, nomination of a new chairperson for the 3 year. Who wants a job? Yeah, I don't think I can keep doing it.
Is this a 1-year term?
So she's
So,
inquiring.
Yeah,
who,
she's
so
thinking.
who wants it, or who wants to
I'll
nominate somebody else? and
I'll
put them on the
volunteer to do
spot?
it. Unless someone else wants it.
Weren't you just
2 years ago?
2 years?
Yeah, she was in 21.
2 years ago. I held us down through COVID.
Did great. I just can't remember what it was.
So I think we would need an official nomination or self-nomination, a second, and an all in favor.
Do any of our other members want to take leadership positions that are new?
I need to learn a little more.
Yeah, same thing.
I'll nominate Delaney.
I'll second that. All in favor of Ashley Delaney being the chairperson for the 2023 year? Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, chairperson. That moves us on to the vice chairperson.
I can do the vice, if that's okay.
All right.
I nominate Savage for vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Multiple seconds.
Second. Who did it? I got it right.
Larry did.
Larry did,
Larry.
okay.
All right, all in favor of Jeff being the vice chair?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Congratulations, Jeff, you're the vice chair now. The last nomination is for the secretary.
I can keep doing it.
Is that allowed?
Nominate me.
Yes, it's the chair
Chair
that
and vice chair.
would like to.
I nominate Monica.
I think she's been doing a fantastic job pumping out the notes.
I agree.
So I will second that nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Well, thank you very much. Item number 13, reports and particulars.
I have a few, but I'm gonna make them quick, because y'all have heard me talk way too much tonight. Council is about to embark on, our next CIP for fiscal years 26 through 30. And as part of that, either in, I think probably in March, I would like that to be an agenda item here where you guys get to dream real big. Think about our park and trail system, what you think the next 5 years looks like. And then obviously those ideas will be relayed to council. It's then their job to rank them and piece them together. Or I guess that's more Chelsea's job, to piece them together off rank based in fiscal years and see if we can pay for everything. So I wanted to plant that seed for y'all to look at our park system and our trails and dream big.
Okay, timeline on those.
I think, like I said, unless we have a lot of other stuff come up, that'll likely be an agenda item for March. And that'll probably be a multi-step discussion amongst yourselves. If you have a thing of 100, you might need to dwindle it down a little bit. So we'll get that process started, and that'll be really helpful for council as they prepare the next 5-year CIP.
Excellent.
And one more thing here, I cannot confirm anything, but RAGBRAI goes from Ames to Des Moines on July 26th. We do not know if they're coming through Polk City yet. There's not a whole lot of towns between Ames and Des Moines for the small town aspect of a through town. So I think everyone is almost operating as if we expect to be told RAGBRAI is coming through. But I will confirm that when we find out. But anyway, why I say that is going to be a bonkers day. And if we are looking for volunteers, I will pass the invitation along to you.
It went from Ames to Des Moines 13, 15-ish years ago. You know what the route was then?
So I did actually look at past routes, and typically we have been a spot. I think the last time was 2006.
I don't remember dates, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right.
In which case, that was not a southern route. We were a through, and then they went to Elkhart, like on their way to Marshalltown or something. But in the 80s, several times, it was a north to south route through here, and we got pegged after Slater. So it's likely, but I cannot confirm at this point.
I think we've been a pass-through town.
Okay. And typically, it sounds like the complete route is made public first part of March. So, and I'm being told that sometimes the through towns don't find out ahead of time. You find out when they announce. So that's kind of the assumption that we should know first part of March. But, yeah.
See, I did Burr on Saturday, and some of the people on Burr were suggesting, because they did say that it's going to be 53 miles from Ames to Des Moines, and there's no way it's 53 miles unless you route them out into the country and bring them back in. So at Burr, there was people saying, I wonder if they're going to take them to Huxley and then go south from there. But but no one knew. Everybody's just guessing.
I like to stay off state highways for the most part,
Yeah.
so there's only so many county roads.
Yeah.
69 is kind of a hard ride.
Yeah.
I have a friend of a friend who thinks they might actually route through Kelly, through Slater, and over to Madrid so that they can cross the High Trestle on the way back to Polk City. So it'll be like a long, they basically go out of their way, but they would still come down Shellville Road back through Polk City and then follow the dam to dam route into Des Moines. So I don't know that that's true. That's 100% hearsay. Please don't write that down in any minutes. But she's been
They're
working.
recording us right
I
now.
know. I'm kidding.
Well, when Jason asked, I said, even if it doesn't come officially through Polk City, you're still going to see an awful lot of riders come through because a lot of them don't like, they just like doing their own route. So
And support vehicles.
yeah.
Now, I just want to throw in a little plug that it's also the Wednesday after Four Seasons Festival. So it's actually, in my opinion, an opportune time because we'll already have a lot of the structure on the square that we could potentially capitalize on.
There is a weekend in between.
Oh, shoot, there is?
It's the 14th and 15th, right? So yeah, it's about 10 days.
Oh, well
After.
then, never mind. It's terrible timing. I thought it was the following Wednesday.
But to
We
put
can
it in
just have a-
perspective, we're
we can have a-
talking Four Seasons Festival, you know, a few thousand, 2,000 to 5,000 maybe.
Yeah.
In past years. This is what, 100 they're talking?
They're hoping that's
Ragbri
their
would
goal.
like to break a world record of having 100,000 riders that day. Now,
So,
thank God everybody
it will
doesn't
be
ride
all
at the same
hands on
pace,
deck.
and we're not going to see that many people at once, because we would run out of bush light. We're probably going to run out of bush light, we'll put it that way, but I don't know. So yeah, that'll definitely be an all hands on deck kind of. So if anybody's available, I could put you to work easy.
I think we should add that as an item to our joint work session.
And that is all I have. Those two items.
Okay, Ron or Chelsea, did you guys have anything?
I do not have anything.
I just want to say that as far as council, we're working on our CIP plan, gonna have a meeting for that. We're in the midst of our budget, getting ready to finalize budget, which will affect you guys in all sorts of ways. And I'd just like to thank all of you for serving. It's volunteers that make Polk City what it is. We appreciate it.
Jason, can you send out the previous CIP to all of us so we have a chance to read through that for?
Yeah, I'll send you all a link of the updated one that's on the website right after this meeting, so you guys can take a look.
I have a general question for whoever. Any updates on the couple grants we put in for the High Trestle Trail connector?
Which ones?
I have Prairie Meadows and the Walmart grant written down.
So those are due this month. Yeah, so they haven't
They haven't gone in.
they have not gone in yet,
Okay.
but we should get award notice probably April, May for both of those.
All right, excellent.
We're hoping.
Yes. Anybody else have any questions?
I do, I have one more actually.
Okay.
The new development that's going in, the Big Creek Commons commercial development, like, you know, it was proposed, it's gonna be industrial and C1, C2,
Gateway Crossings.
Gateway Crossings,
Gateway Crossings.
thank you. That area has a bike trail that basically goes around the entire perimeter of that.
But doesn't connect to anything
Yeah.
on 3rd Street. I actually wondered about that as well. It looks like, as it's outlined in the documents that they put forward, that they've got parkland dedication there of a trail that connects over to 3rd Street, to Shellbell Drive, and
So they just submitted a rezoning application. They haven't submitted a preliminary plat yet. So it's just a concept.
Oh,
When
okay.
they submit a preliminary plat, they'll have further detail on it, but that was just an idea they had.
Perfect, that's the clarification I needed.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where it connected to.
yeah, because it doesn't make sense to really want to do that if there's not any housing that connects to.
I was kind of hoping that they were going to donate all that parkland to connect into the High Trestle Trail and we could use the money from those grants elsewise. So I was actually bringing it up as a positive,
Yeah.
not a negative.
We get somewhat cautious when people give us a concept because then people get very fixated on it and then they submit their preliminary plat and it's very different.
Sure.
So yeah, that's just a kind of an idea, I'll say. But yeah, we've had the same concern. Said you're going to have to address this with trail connectivity.
That's a delightful answer. I just didn't know it was
Yeah.
a concept in it, or an idea instead of an actual proposal.
Right. Wonderful. Anything else? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn until March 6th?
I'll motion.
Jess got the motion.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Monica seconds. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.